Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rotoballer Radio Waiver Wire Series. I'm your host, Anthony Aniano. Happy to be with you here as we take a look at the waiver wire for Week 12 of your fantasy football season. Folks, don't forget, head over to rotoballer.com, check out everything we have there. The main page, premium package, expert chats, you know the routine. Check out the main page there, all sorts of great content, and then sign up for that premium pass, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, MMA, esports, NASCAR, PGA, sports betting, you name it, rotoballer.com has it for you. The season-long or DFS formats. Use the promotional code ACES. Save yourself an additional 10% at checkout on any of those premium passes. Okay, make sure also you like and subscribe right here to the Rotoballer Radio YouTube channel or wherever you continue to listen to the Rotoballer Radio podcast series. Starts with the waiver wire, goes through all the start-sits, and ends with Scott Engel and I, the King and Pocket Aces show, looking at sleeper and value plays. So tons of great content right here on Rotoballer's YouTube all week long. All right, guys. Week 12 is upon us. We have two teams on a bye, Week 12, Arizona and Kansas City. So it's a fantasy hit, right? Kyler Murray's been out. Colt McCoy has played respectable in his absence. When they come back, you expect Murray, maybe DeAndre Hopkins back, but you're missing Christian Kirk, James Conner, Zach Ertz, who had a monster game Week 11, and then Kansas City, we know all the pieces we're missing. We had some injuries in Week 11 as well. Jets running back Michael Carter, Justin Fields at quarterback for the Bears, and then wide receivers A.J. Brown with a chest injury, Jarvis Landry with a knee, and CeeDee Lamb with what looks like a concussion. So they'll be out potentially for some time. And don't forget, right, I mentioned CeeDee Lamb and the concussion. Don't forget, he's playing Thursday. Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving to the hashtag Rotoballer squad out there. Thursday's lineup includes the Bears at the Detroit Lions. You may see Andy Dalton under center Thursday for the Bears against Detroit. Dalton played well, actually. Got some players involved. You have the Raiders at the Dallas Cowboys. They could be without Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb potentially. Okay, Dak Prescott has not played well of late. And then the Buffalo Bills on the Thursday night game. Buffalo Bills at the New Orleans Saints dealing with Trevor Siemian at quarterback. And Buffalo struggling a bit as well after a brutal defeat on Week 11. So let's start at the quarterback position. And my number one waiver wire ad is Cam Newton. Okay, I didn't think I'd say he'd be that high, but he is, second week in a row on the list. Now, he's a little more highly rostered than anybody else I'm going to talk about today. 51% rostered as of Sunday on Yahoo. He goes 21 to 27, 2 touchdowns, also rushes for 46 yards on 10 carries, runs in a touchdown, so 3 touchdowns. You know, the concern was, is he going to take rushing touchdowns away from McCaffrey? And he did get 1. 189 passing yards total on the day. 30.2 fantasy points. Goes against Miami, who Joe Flacco did have a little bit of success against in terms of accumulating yards. But Cam Newton's in line for goal line work. He looked okay. Found DJ Moore and McCaffrey for 2 touchdown passes. So he is my number one ad if you're looking to still figure out how to manage without Murray, if you're looking to replace Patrick Mahomes, if you're concerned about Russell Wilson's play of late. Ryan Tannehill threw 4 touchdowns. So you may have some quarterback concerns heading into Week 12. At number 2 is Jimmy Garoppolo, who I used once Lamar Jackson was declared inactive due to illness. Jimmy Garoppolo now has 4 straight games of 19 or more fantasy points. He went 16 to 22 for 2 touchdowns, 176 yards total, 19.6 points. Goes against Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers had a nice game against the Vikings Week 11 in their loss. Okay, but keep in mind now, Deebo Samuel's involved in all sorts of ways. Brandon Ayuk has become a favorite once again, and Kittle caught a touchdown for the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo at 28% rostered. He's my second quarterback to add. At number 3 is Tyler Heineke, coming off a 3-touchdown day. Heineke looked good, 16 to 22, 206 yards. Put up 29 fantasy points against Seattle. Seattle just is in dire straits right now. That's just the bottom line. They look terrible. In Week 11. Tyler Heineke now has 5 games of 20 or more fantasy points. Terry McLaurin, people hit me up on Twitter heading into Week 11. McLaurin doesn't sit, bottom line, stays in your lineup. DeAndre Carter, we'll talk about him in a bit as well. Antonio Gibson had a nice game. Tyler Heineke, only 15% rostered. And then at number 4 is Mac Jones. against Tennessee in Week 12. He played Thursday night. 1 touchdown, 22 of 26, 207 yards. Not a monster game, okay, but they handled business against Atlanta. Didn't need Mac Jones to do much. Tennessee coming off the loss, the upset loss to Houston. So Mac Jones at 40% roster is number 4. And then number 5, Tyrod Taylor. And I mentioned him strictly because he's facing the Jets defense. Taylor had 2 rushing touchdowns in Week 11, giving him 19 fantasy points. And this is a winnable game for the Houston Texans against the Jets and Tyrod Taylor, and the Houston ability to run the ball can be put into play against the Jets defense that has just been terrible. Played better against Miami, just not good enough to win. So again, recap my 5 quarterbacks: Cam Newton 1, Jimmy Garoppolo 2, Heineke 3, Mac Jones 4, and Tyrod Taylor in desperation situation against the New York Jets. Now, heading over to the running back position for Week 12. Again, remember, be mindful of Michael Carter, okay, James Conner, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, Williams of Kansas City kind of rendered to, put on the back burner with Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. So that kind of hurts Williams' value. Don't drop him, especially if you have Edwards-Helaire. Protect yourself from another injury. But nonetheless, so my number 1 ad, the guys, I'll be honest with you here. At the running back position, it is dire straits off the waiver wire this week. There is nothing I'm overly excited about. To be brutally honest with you, don't go crazy bidding at running backs. That being said, Matt Breida of the Buffalo Bills did lead Buffalo in carries. It was only 5 carries, but it was 10 yards per carry. He finished with 51 yards rushing on those 5 carries. More than Singletary, more than Zach Moss in Buffalo's game where they didn't play well. They played terrible, to be honest. Okay, 1 reception for 16 yards. At number 2, keep an eye on DJ Dallas. Chris Carson now out for the year. DJ Dallas did get a rushing touchdown for Seattle this week in their loss to Arizona, so be mindful of DJ Dallas potentially. Alex Collins has had 100-yard game and hasn't looked good. Rashad Penny's done next to nothing. Okay, again, desperation play DJ at Dallas at number 2. At number 3, Tevin Coleman of the Jets with Michael Carter potentially injured and missing time. Tevin Coleman took over once Michael Carter went out. Ran the ball 5 times for nothing, 16 yards. Goes against Houston, so Tevin Coleman could have an opportunity there. As could in that same game, Rex Burkhead of the Houston Texans, who did lead the team in carries. Did Burkhead. He carried the ball 18 times. Wasn't very effective, only 40 yards, but he goes against the Jets. And then number 5, okay, Dontrell Hilliard of Tennessee. McNichols was out with a concussion. Foreman and Adrian Peterson were involved. Adrian Peterson carried 9 times for 40. Deontay Foreman carried 7 for 25. Hilliard carried 7 for 35, but was involved in the passing game, which is usually McNichols' role. 8 receptions for 47 yards, 10 targets. Put up 16 points, did Hilliard. Okay, nothing overly inspiring. Faces New England. If McNichols is out, Hilliard could be a desperation PPR play if he's going to see that volume of carries. But as you can see here, nothing really to love at the running back position. Breida would be number 1, just because he seems to have an increased role there in the last 2 weeks in Buffalo. DJ Dallas in number 2. Seattle desperately looking for a spark. Dallas did get in the end zone. Tevin Coleman at number 3, like I said, replacing Michael Carter potentially. Burkhead, based on matchup against the Jets. And Hilliard in a PPR format if McNichols remains out. On to the wide receiver position. Okay, number 1 wide receiver of the week, DeAndre Carter of the Washington football team. I mentioned him last week. I mentioned him again. Not a ton of volume, only 3 targets, only 2 receptions. But it is his 3rd game in a row with a touchdown for DeAndre Carter of Washington. I expect the Washington football team to be able to throw the ball against Seattle in Week 12. I used Carter in a few spots this week. He paid off, gave me just enough. So DeAndre Carter sits at number 1. At number 2 is Cedric Wilson of the Dallas Cowboys. The potential of no CeeDee Lamb and no Amari Cooper makes Cedric Wilson the number 2 option alongside Michael Gallup. Okay, against Kansas City, Cedric Wilson finished 4 for 36 with 7 targets. Okay, faces the Raiders on Thanksgiving Day. That quick turnaround could force Wilson into some spots. At number 3 is Russell Gage of the Atlanta Falcons. Thursday night was Matt Ryan's favorite target eight targets, 5 for 49 yards. Good matchup for the Atlanta offense, maybe to get a little bit more on track going against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Thursday. Russell Gage has 19 targets in his last 3 games. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is available, 9% rostered. Right, I mean, you look at these players. DeAndre Hunt Carter is only 3%. Cedric Wilson is 2% rostered. Russell Gage, 17%. Valdez-Scantling, 9% rostered. Did lead the top team in targets with 10, 4 for 123, and a touchdown, 22.3 fantasy points for Valdez-Scantling. And the Packers lost to the Vikings. Tough matchup for the Packers offense against the Rams in Week 12. At number 5, and these are your desperation plays, really, Marquise Goodwin with Allen Robinson out and potentially out again. Quick turnaround for the Bears against Detroit on Thursday. But Marquise Goodwin, 8 targets, 4 for 104. Had a nice game once Andy Dalton came in. Dalton could be under center potentially for the Bears on Thursday against the Lions. And finally, number 6. I usually do 5, but I'll mention a 6th. With A.J. Brown leaving the game with an injury, with Julio Jones on IR, Nick Westbrook of Tennessee gets targeted 8 times, goes 7 for 107 for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not going crazy over it. Last week you saw Marcus Johnson. This week it's Westbrook. Okay, that Tennessee offense, although they're the number 1 seed in the AFC, just seems to be still trying to find itself since the Derrick Henry injury. DeAndre Carter's my wide receiver 1 to add. Wilson 2, Gage 3. Valdez-Scantling 4, and then your desperation plays, Marquise Goodwin and Nick Westbrook. At the tight end position, really only 2 of note. Adam Troutman, who was a preseason darling of mine, starting to see more and more action now, really with Trevor Siemian under center. Adam Troutman only 7% rostered, 21 targets in his last 3 games, goes 5 for 58 this week, 8 targets, and a touchdown, 16.8 fantasy points, goes against Buffalo. And then number 2, Austin Hooper, 2 weeks in a row now. I've mentioned Hooper, 4 for 53 on 7 targets at Baltimore. It is Cleveland who's struggling to put up points with wide receivers out. Jarvis Landry now banged up. Austin Hooper should continue to see a large number of targets from Baker Mayfield in this Cleveland offense as they are on the road against the Ravens next week. All right, everybody. Guys, don't forget, give me a follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. Like and subscribe right here on the Rotoballer YouTube channel. Continue listening wherever you listen to the Rotoballer Radio podcasts. And as always, sign up for that premium pass over at rotoballer.com. Save 10% using the promotional code ACES. Just basically letting them know that I sent you there. All right, everybody. Enjoy the week. Happy Thanksgiving. And as always, thanks to everybody for always watching and listening and supporting the show and rotoballer.com. Enjoy your holiday. Be smart. Be safe. Have a good one, folks.